welcome back to the channel guys, and welcome back to the latest update on the Scania 143. I know a lot of you guys have been asking for updates on this truck. It has been a slow process and I'll show you why. So what is taking up all the time on this build is them. So these are taking an absolute magnitude of work. It's just so difficult to try and get them flat, level and sort of not warped. So there's a hell of a lot of time going into these, and this is basically now holding the build up because, as you can see, there's not an awful lot we can do while these are now being prepped and getting ready for paint. Obviously the whole truck is masked up, so again we can't do anything while this masking paper's on. We don't want to be clambering all over this and introducing grease and contaminants into the primer, which is then obviously going to affect the paint. So until these are done, there's not an awful lot we can do on this truck now guys. So fingers crossed, we are hoping that these will now be painted by this weekend. Today is Thursday evening. Hopefully, come the weekend Saturday, these will be painted. That will be painted. And again, on this other side, will also be painted. So there's not much of an update really guys. It's going to be a short video, just letting you know where we're up to, because again I keep having people messaging in asking what's going on with the build, have we brought it to a stop and so on. The answer is no, it's not been brought to a stop. As you can see, it is still happening, it is still taking place. It's just that these seem to be taking forever to get done. I think we're probably about 6 months into obviously fabrication work, prep and paint now on this truck. There is still a few little bits that Tom needs to finish off, just little pimples like this. We are going to fill this line tomorrow and just tidy these edges up around the lights. I mean, the lights probably would cover this, these little bits of pitting that you can see there around these edges, but we don't want to leave it like that. We want to get it right. So there's that to do. Again, around here, similar situation, just bits of pitting where water's been trapped behind the seals from the old lights, and again filling just this weld. We don't want to be seeing any bits of weld like that, so we'll just smooth these out and just make it so it's a nice jagged edge but without the weld on show. So I'll just take you over to the flyer. So there we are. Last time you will have seen this flyer, you will have seen there was a lot of steel work gone on here. There was welds that needed flattening back and stuff. Tom's now dealt with all this and he's got somewhat of a decent shape to it. It has all now been skimmed, the filler work has been completed, and as you can see there, this is now in primer. Take you for a little look around this side. Same again, bit of a light skim and a nice couple of coats of primer on there as well. And again, same on the inside. Obviously we're not going to flat back the welds on the inside of this because we need to retain the strength. So, and obviously you don't see that because all this is covered with checker plate. So these welds will remain as they are to keep the strength in this panel, and again you don't see any of this because it's all covered with checker plate. So the aim of the game for me this evening is I'm going to paint the inside of this in the body colour, which is going white, because we don't, again, similar situation we had with the bodies and the side lockers. We didn't want to paint them while it was off the truck because we've got to get them on the truck, and doing that you're probably going to damage the paintwork. So that's why we fitted them and then painted them afterwards. And it's going to be the same situation with this because we've got to lift that and put it on there. So we're going to be using a stacker truck, we're going to be having to block it up, we're going to be moving it around and stuff, so we're guaranteed we are going to cause some damage to that paint if we paint that off the truck. So the plan is this evening I'm going to be painting all the inside of this right around there. I'm going to be painting these bases there and there, and then I'm going to be dropping the flyer back on there possibly tomorrow. Whether I'll get this on this episode I'm not entirely sure. Just depends sort of how long it takes me to paint that and for the paint to go off. I am on my own this evening, so whether I can manhandle that on my own and get it up there is another question. So we'll see how we get on with that. But before we fit that, we do need to cut a couple of rubber strips. So I've got this nice thick rubber matting that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to be cutting a couple of strips off this, which are going to sit between there and obviously on top of the body where the flyer sits. There was rubber matting under this when we took it off. However, they have quite badly perished, so we don't want to reuse the old ones. I'm going to cut some new matting. As you can see there, we've got the whole back of this truck masked off to prevent overspray and filler dust getting all over our nicely painted chassis. Again, all the cab is bagged off as well. We probably will have to tilt that cab once we get the flyer in here, because the flyer and these side lockers are all going to be painted together. So we're going to be cutting a nice little rubber mat to go along here, which we'll then drop our flyer onto and then obviously bolt it in. So that's the plan for tonight. So before I paint this, I'm going to be using a red Scotch pad, and I'm just going to be giving this primer a bit of a keying in, just to give the paint a nice surface to stick to. So I'll go over all this, get all these bits of crud out the corners, go over the whole thing with a Scotch pad, get it nice and keyed up. Once I've been around the whole thing with a Scotch, I'm then going to hoover out all in this section here, get as much of this dust out as I can, then I'll blow it all off with the airline, and then I'll give it some panel wipe, clean it all up, make sure it's all nice and contaminant free, and then I will be getting some paint on there later on this evening. So as I was saying guys, here I'm just keying up the surface with a Scotch pad, just to take any dust and crap off, and also give the fresh paint something to stick to. If you don't key this surface up, there's a good chance the paint will just start to flake off. I've already hoovered the flyer at this point, and I'm just giving it a quick blowing off with the air gun, just to get rid of any dust and bits of crap. And then I also went round it with some panel wipe, cleaned it all off, let it dry before we started to mix and apply the paint. Right, so with all that cleaned up, panel wiped down and ready to go, we've got our products ready here. So we've got our paint. This is a 2-pack paint, and this needs to be mixed to a certain ratio. So how we do this is we have our mixing cup like so, and this is stamped with different mixing ratios. So we are going to be using 2:1 is the mixture for this one. So there's our, you can see it on the camera guys, 2:1. So what we've got to do is fill our paint up to the number 2 position, and then we add our hardener, which is this stuff, up to from the number 2 to the number 1, and then what we're going to do then is add 10% thinners. So we're mixing this paint 2:1 paint and hardener, and then 10% thinners just to thin the paint down to help it flow out the gun and atomise that paint better. So let's get mixing. So that's our paint, as you can see there, that is on the line for the number 2. To add our hardener up to the number 1 mark. Hold on a sec guys, trying to do this single-handed. That's our hardener in. Right, so we've got our 2:1 mix with the paint and hardener, and now we just need to add a dash of thinners, which is just 10% up to the 10% mark, which is just that. So I've managed to get some paint on the inside of this flyer. It's not fantastic, but it's the inside of the flyer. You don't see it, it's protected. That's the main thing really. Not after any perfect finish inside here, as long as the outside of the bodies look good. This is not really very important. So that's done. It saved Tom a job tomorrow, so he can concentrate on the back end of the bodies, and obviously painting the bodies, sorry, filling the back end of the bodies and then painting the bodies, so he can crack on with that tomorrow now, and this has just saved him a little bit of time. So all these edges and everything are going to get redone again. This is basically, we're just concentrating on the inside of here at this point. So that is all done. So I managed to get 3 nice heavy coats of paint under this. This is more for rust protection than anything, because it's all covered with checker plate. so you don't actually see any of this anyway. So this is now the following day, and the aim of the game today is to get this flyer up and back on top of the bodies where it should sit. To do that, I need to get this flyer off the stanchion that it's currently sat on. So we're going to lift the front of the flyer up, slowly ease it down to the ground, and then what I need to do is turn it around, get it into a good position to be able to lift it up on top of the truck. Right guys, so there we have it, the flyer is on. It is only bolted in with a couple of bolts either side. It should have 5 bolts either side. We'll just put 2 in for now, just to, it's on. We can put the other bolts in when it's all painted. We're just on a bit of a time crunch now. It's getting up at 9 o'clock at night. It is getting a little bit dark, and we need to get this painted. So there we have it. We've now flatted back all this primer, flatted back the primer on flyer as well. We've panel wiped all this. Next stage for this now is we're going to go around it with a couple of tack rags. Tom's on the other side, currently cleaning that side up. So we'll get all this cleaned up, we'll get it tack ragged off, get any bits of dust off it. You're always going to get little bits of dust and crap in the paint, painting something like this in a quite large open environment, so it's never going to be perfect, but we'll do the best we can with it. So Tom's just finishing this side off, and then it's going to be all systems go. And the next time you see this truck, these bodies and that flyer should be in the nice white to match the cab. Right, so there is the first coat, guys. It's now all in white. Just letting this go off slightly, and we're going to give it the next coat. We're having 3 coats in total. It's hard to get the shine really on here, but as I say, it is only the first coat, so this is what we call a sticky coat, just to cover the primer, and then we start layering it up and getting some nice heavy coats on now, getting that shine to pop out a bit more. It's a bit dark down this side, you can see it's coming on pretty well. We are using a light down here, but we're burning through battery, so we're turning it off in between coats. As you can see there, guys, she's finally white. So let's get this next coat on. She's now painted. This paint's still wet at the minute, so I can't get too close. I don't want to introduce any more dust. Obviously there is some bits of crap in the paint, but it's not overly bad. Turned out really well actually. Nice shine to it. It's hard to get it in here under the light, but there it is. Finally, we have paint. That is, the body's done. It's been a long slog, months and months of work, but finally getting somewhere with it now. Take you for a little look around the other side. There we go. Flyer's all done. That's come out well. Obviously, as I was saying earlier, it's only held in with a couple of bolts, so there is a gap there because it's not fully fastened down yet. This was just to get it on, to get it painted. Start of another day, we're back at the unit. I was woke up pretty excited this morning to get in here and have a look at this. Paint's set really well, got a nice shine to it, and as you'll see there, I did get a little bit carried away with myself, and I've put the marker lights in the sides, the side repeating indicators built into them as well. I've also fitted all our lights into our flyer, and I've fitted all our handles back into our lockers. I'll show you a little look at the back of the flyer. I've put all the lights back up in there as well. I'll give the chassis a little wipe down because it was full of dust again from obviously sanding and painting these. Well, I think, guys, that is looking really, really well. That is going to be some truck when it's finished. I'll take you for a little look around the other side. We'll just have to zoom out because it's quite close getting around here. There's not an awful lot of room. This side again, I've not actually started putting anything in this side yet. I'm going to move along here soon and get all these lock handles put in and all these side markers as well. Again, there's our flyer. Still only got a couple of bolts holding this down at the moment, which is why we've got a gap there. Only 2 bolts in it, should be 5 per side, so I'll get onto that probably in the next couple of days. But yeah, really happy with that. This has been an absolute mammoth challenge to get this to this point. We've spent months and months on these lockers trying to get these ready. They needed so much work. It was just unbelievable how much time and effort we've had to put into them. But there we go, guys, look at that. I think she's looking good. So the next stage for this build is going to be wiring and this front axle. Get all these new looms ran into all these marker lights. We are not going to be using the old looms because they were absolutely knackered. So we're going to be making new looms, running these down the lockers into all these lights. We're probably going to add some additional lights on here as well, possibly some pigtails on the back corners and some other stuff coming for this build as well. We are going to be putting some extras on this. As you'll be aware, we've still not done this front axle yet because we got supplied with the wrong parts. We now do have the correct parts, so that is something we'll move on to in the next episode, getting that front axle built up, and then we can start to move on into our wheel arches and get all this lower section painted. Tom's got all the panels up at my place in Middleton, where he's now prepping and getting ready to paint all the drop wings, all the front grille, corner panels and all that sort of stuff, and then we still need to get around to our front bumper and figure out what we're going to do with that yet as well. So there's lots and lots still to do. There is still lots of exciting things to come for this build. We've got a full custom interior to go in it as well, and a full custom sound system going in, along with some other bits and bobs that we're going to be doing. So there it is, the moment we've all been waiting for a long time. It's finally in paint. So that's going to be it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you're enjoying this build. Click that bell button to follow future builds. Give us a thumbs up. Drop us some comments. Give us a share. Help the channel grow. Let us know what you think of this build so far. And also let us know what you would like to see after this one coming onto the channel. Got a few possibilities, but let us know what you'd like to see restored. We will be doing another one after this, so let us know what you think, guys. Let us know what you'd like to see restored on the channel, and we'll see you all on the next video.